Welcome to the Life with Joey Calvo podcast. I am Joey Calvo. Please help support the podcast by going to the Life with Joey Calvo Patreon page, which is Life with Joey Calvo, patreon.com/Life with Joey Calvo. You can also go to the GoFundMe page and search Joseph Calvo, and you will see the campaign that says taking the podcast to new heights. So our guest today is Sadhu Dah. He's a circus aerialist, documentary maker, world traveler, exorcist, and a digital nomad. Also a bit of performing musician. So Sadhu, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and I thank you so much for your patience. Because the last time we scheduled, the podcast was having trouble, quote unquote. I was unemployed. I'm still kind of quote unquote unemployed. But God blessed me right afterwards. So I do thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And again, thank you so much for your patience in reference to coming on. So
yeah, not a problem, man. Glad to be here.
Okay. So explain to me who Sadhu Dah is. Outside of what I told you.
The $1 million question, yeah. So, the short end of the stick is basically Sadhu Dah is an aspect of my professional life. Sadhu Dah is both who I am and also not. In specific reference to that moniker, that's all of the paranormal work I do, the meditation, the teaching, the shamanism, what I call the deep weird. That's all that aspect of me. Outside of that, I'm just a guy who loves adventure, enjoys traveling. I have an affinity for different forms of art. And I like to have a couple of cold ones with some friends and play some video games and relax. I'm a pretty simple guy. I just get into weird situations all the time.
Okay. All right. So you mentioned that you had years of study under monks and forest shamans. And can you explain a little bit more about that and how, what led you to want to go into that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the origin story, if you will, has been told to death on hundreds of podcasts. So I'll just give you the Cliff Notes version of that. But when I was younger, I met a monk in the States, and I studied under him for quite some time. And then at one point, I ended up moving to Thailand, and I used contacts through that original first teacher to befriend others, whether they were monks or Ajahn or Lucy, which are different types of shamans that practice the animistic forms of Southeast Asian Thai traditions. So what I ended up doing at one point was living with these different masters and kind of taking anything they were willing to give me. And once I built up enough professional standing in the community for myself, I started promoting it on a larger scale, website and all of that. And I found myself more connected to a culture that I was not born in than my own, natural culture. As some of my friends in Thailand say, you're more Thai than me.
Okay. All right. You also mentioned about being a circus aerialist. Can you explain how you got into that? What got you into that, actually?
Well, at first it was trying to get the attention of a girl, and that succeeded. And then I had to follow through on it. And I got into the circus and found my discipline in aerial straps. And so, I performed and I did aerial straps in Bellingham, Washington, and I had a lot of fun with that. But I had a previous shoulder injury from back when I used to do competitive martial arts. And so it kind of started getting the best of me towards the end. And for some other personal reasons, I kind of closed the chapter on that, but ultimately quite satisfied with where I took it and what I did with it.
Okay. And then you also mentioned that you are a documentary maker. Can you explain what got you into that?
Well, I was originally making some YouTube videos just to kind of chronicle my own story a little bit. And I ended up getting the attention of a television network. I got burned by them. I learned a very hard lesson in business and specifically show business.
Okay.
And I was kind of on the radar of another network. When I went with them, I got a lot more creative freedom. I can't name their name specifically because if I name them, it enters into legal territory where I have to get approval first. That kind of red tape. But I have a contract with them now, and I have the privilege of being able to travel all over the world and tell everything from human stories, interviewing people, to exotic destinations, to history and cultural discovery, and even some journalism aspects of like political corruption and things of the like.
Okay. All right. So you would be doing something like what's going on in Minnesota right now if you were out there.
I would, but I tend to not be in the U.S. very often. So as it stands, I'm in D.C. right now.
Okay.
But I'm only going to be here for 2 months, and then I'm back in Thailand.
Okay. And then explain about being an exorcist.
Ah, loaded gun right there. So it's not like people portray it in movies, right?
Okay. So it's not like the 1970s movie.
No. Okay. You do have rare cases where you have undeniable high-level phenomena occurring. A lot of times, what ends up happening is you go into a situation, just to kind of dumb it down, keep it really simple and not step on toes of different beliefs and all that. But you come into a situation where somebody is being negatively affected externally, and that infliction that has been put on them now has internal roots. And you see changes in personality, and you can also see and witness phenomena on varying different scales that may or may not be something that can easily be explained through just happenstance. So what I do in that type of situation is I go in there and I want to do one of two things first. I want to get rapport with that person, and I want to bring them out of that lower state that they're in that makes them susceptible to what has affected them. Or the second thing is I want to make the environment that they're in corrosive to that outside force, to where then it breaks a grasp on that person.
Okay. All right. So, and then also about being a performing musician. Can you explain what got you into that?
I've always had a penchant for music, but when I was younger, I kind of lacked self-confidence. And I had a friend who is a very, very gifted traveling musician. And, he's not got a record contract or, anything like that. But the dude would travel all over the States and always had a couch to sleep on, always had a gig to perform at. And it inspired me in a lot of ways. And, we got to talking, and, we did a couple little just jam sessions, privately. And one of his shows, he forced me out on stage, basically. And even though I wanted to rage on him for putting me on the spot like that, surprisingly, I swam. I did not sink.
Right.
And that gave me enough confidence and having my voice appreciated that I started to do it more and more. And I ended up creating 10 rap albums of my own. I started to get into like folk and blues rock type of music. And then whenever I saw a stage that I could get on, or people I could talk to make it happen, whatever country I was in, I got myself on a stage and I performed.
Okay, so what's next for Sadhu Dah? Where are we looking at within the next 5 years?
In the next 5 years, I would kind of like to go back to college and try something different. I'm not stagnant in life right now, and I do enjoy the quality of my life and all the things that I have. But I'm one of those people that I'm always looking for the next challenge, and I don't say that in an unhealthy way, but just for the growth of spirit. And so I'm kind of like entertaining the thought of, could I successfully do law school? Could I successfully, become like a teacher in a classroom? What are the things that interest me that I might want to see if I have the capability of, and patience of finishing school to see out the end goal of. So going back to school is kind of the next goal for me.
Okay. And all right. So I don't have many other questions outside of, what I've asked. I mean, there's not that I don't have much of an interest. It's just, like I said, we went through practically everything in reference to you. Let me just double check one more thing in reference to it. The digital nomad, I mean, you explained about, being on YouTube and all that. Have you ever thought, maybe I do have one more question. As you've been going on in, being the doc, being the world traveler and the exorcist and the performing musician and, all these other things. Have you thought about, starting your own podcast?
I have, and I did with a little bit of success launch one in the past, but then I quickly abandoned it after about 5 or 6 episodes. And the reason being is not that I don't have an interest in doing it, but my plate is so loaded at any given time. I mean, there's weeks where I cannot get all of the work I need to get, finished. And if I were to add something else like that onto it, that's a long-term or a continual commitment, I just think at some point something would have to give, and that would probably be the first thing to give.
Okay. But, you could always go back to it in reference to it because, like I said, when you had that opportunity, like I said, with this podcast, I do it 3 days a week. Now, when we originally scheduled, I was doing it almost 5 days a week. But at the time, like I said, I was unemployed. So I was managing up to a point, and then, it got harder, quote unquote, to keep it going. So, I had to cut back a little bit. So we just got back altogether, the beginning of the year. So, I mean, it was a challenge, but, we managed. I mean, I was able to start doing the podcast again, but I did it another way, and it's not like I do this now, the way this format is. If you looked at if you went on the YouTube channel and saw the ones in December, and mainly December is when I went back doing podcasts again. When I did them in December, I mean, the background was not the greatest like it is now. But like I said, I'm blessed right now that it's back to the way it is, and I'm glad it is the way it is now because it's easier for me. So where can people reach out to you if they're in, if they have any questions or if they're interested in learning, more about you, or maybe an interest of doing stuff like this with you?
Yeah. So my website's kind of the simplest option because all the links for everything else can all be found there. And that's www.thesadhudah.com, thesadhudah.com.
Okay. Give me one moment. There we go. I took out the www, of course. But,
yeah, no worries.
but it's the same thing. It'll get you there. Folks, it'll get you there. So, you can always check out Sadhu right there at his website. And if you see an interest that, may interest you, or you want to work with him, please reach out to him because maybe he could use the collaboration. And, it doesn't hurt to learn in reference to it. Maybe, maybe you may want to go in the same direction he did. And, he can mentor you in reference to, being, working with, what he learned from the monks and the shamans and so on. So go to thought-provoking. And Sadhu, thank you so much for being on the podcast. If you have anything new that comes up, please reach out. We'll be happy to, do what we can to promote anything. Or if you have anything coming up right now, please let us know now while we're still on this time now.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's just nose to the grindstone next couple months, but I appreciate you having me on as a guest, and we'll definitely share this with my followers, and wishing you all the success and, speedy recovery for your knee.
All right. And thank you so much, everybody, for watching the Life with Joey Calvo podcast. God bless you all.